Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I don't know if Bob Iger is still going, so the vote of confidence in this panel is really high. I'm Mark Wilson. I'm Global Design Editor at Fast Company. Today's panel is putting AI to work, and it's really inspired by this current moment, right? 18 months ago, 2 years ago, generative AI hit. It was like an atomic bomb of technology, and we've all been sort of sorting through the rubble since. There's a lot of overhype. At the same time, there's a lot of true function that people are using right now. And we're going to sort of dig into its current state, its near future, and touch a bit on, some speculative farther future. So I think it should be a fun group. Everyone on this panel is working either sort of actually both on the cutting edge of AI development and using AI internally for their own function. And so they'll all have perspectives to add in that sense. Kediki works with Crikey. Crikey is an AI-based animation studio platform. Marty's with Territory. Territory, for doing animation for things like the Avengers films. He also works within Product UI. And then Yana is with Craftful. Craftful is a platform that allows you to go through thousands and thousands of user reviews and using AI, sort of turn those into very actionable insights for your app or other service. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I would love to start this conversation with how are you using AI right now, within your current sort of workflow?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Really excited to be here today. I think at Crikey, we try to use AI to automate any repetitive steps in the workflow. Note-taking is a really big use case for us, so summarizing notes after a meeting. And then we do actually use our own animation tool internally, so you can upload a video of yourself or type in a text prompt, and we'll turn it into a high-fidelity 3D animation. So we use this to produce a lot of marketing content for our business, and also to create educational explainer videos as well.
Nice. Hi, everyone. We definitely work in many different design pipelines. And one of the anecdotes that I always talk to that the other day happened, we have this big Netflix film, and we had this 8K resolution compositing issue where we had 12 different layers, and we were building big effects and all of that, and we had a weird edge that was flickering, and we could not, we all of the compositors, all of the senior technical artists were looking at it. We could not really find what was happening. And we were already thinking, I'm gonna have to call this very expensive freelance to come and sit on this for a couple of days. It's gonna cost us a lot of money.
Marty, how many hours of work do you have into this project at that point?
I mean, that's been a project that has been going for over 2 years now.
Okay.
But this was one of 500 shots, and we were finishing the shot, and that we could not find what was the issue, and we ended up in ChatGPT actually just saying, okay, without disclosing or uploading anything confidential, of course, we just presented the issue. We are working with this software. We have 12 layers. We have all of these things. And after a couple of wrong answers that we tested, and it was clearly not the issue, the AI told us that probably the blur that were applying in that layer number 6 was trying to get the value, the 1 and 0 value outside of the composite, the composition, and was creating a flicker. So we solved it. The AI asked us to scale that by 0.002%. So there was a value that it could calculate outside of our compositing solution, and it fixed it. And in 10 minutes, we fixed that. Well, we're using it in many other ways, too. There's a lot of computational power behind some of the effects that we simulate that are now using algorithms that are empowered by AI. So we really see it coming from many, many different angles. And sometimes to quickly put a concept out for some of our clients. Another anecdote with Nike the other day, we could have presented 3 or 4 versions of something that they wanted to create very quickly to validate the purpose of that design. But instead, we could offer them, that will have taken us a couple of 3D artists for maybe a couple of days. We gave them 20 options within 2 hours. And we said, all of this is AI generated from scratch. Nothing has been uploaded. but at least you can tell us which style you will prefer. So we narrowed we validated the point that way. And I could tell you more and more anecdotes, but I think this is a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. Jana?
Yeah, and so we are a tiny team of 6, and we've grown to serve over 40,000 product teams, which means that we kind of have the pain points that we intended to solve, which is we're getting feedback from all of these users all at the same time, and we obviously don't have the people to be able to read it all and process and think about it. So we connect our intercom tickets in all of our calls and all of our inbound that we get in various sources and analyze all of that. And that really enables our product team to operate much more efficiently, kind of like a big org, even though it's really just 6 people behind it all. Beyond just using Craftful, which we use in pretty much every product flow, we really try to use AI in everything that we use, which is we're trying to keep our team as small as possible and then innovate on what could we use AI for. So we use it for marketing material, we use it for generating copy and any kind of pitch. But I think that the more interesting use cases that I'm uncovering just as I'm talking with my colleagues is, I had a colleague who was working on SEO, so she downloaded a CSV and just uploaded it to ChatGPT and asked it to what could we optimize for our SEO, and got a really great analysis. That was sort of the starting point, because obviously the internet is full of advice on how to optimize SEO. So there's a really helpful way to get feedback. So I think there's a lot of different flows that you can use AI in, and I'm really excited about the opportunity of more small teams being able to build really big companies with really great impact, and ultimately solving many more use cases than you previously were, because you need much less capital.
I mean, how are you feeling about sort of these 2 different pools you can use AI right now for, which is we heard some examples of efficiency, right? Sort of solving problems that would have taken weeks perhaps of research, or creativity, right? Which is very much on the opposite end of the spectrum, and what people are doing, to the point of generating concepts quickly for Nike or otherwise.
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things for us about AI is that it really is an opportunity unlock. So using Crikey itself as an example, when you think about 3D content production historically, probably for most of us sitting in this room, we're not animators. We don't know how to set up a 3D scene and all the traditional workflows. But with artificial intelligence, anyone can now animate a 3D character, and anyone can produce high-fidelity 3D content. And I think that's applicable across a number of very specific verticals. And so by using AI, we can all become experts and quickly create really high-fidelity, beautiful things. And for us, that's been the most exciting part of this whole process, is us obviously using our own tool, but then seeing teachers and students come and create lesson plans and book reports that are all 3D animated. Even a year ago, that wouldn't have been possible. So I think that's the most important part, is utilizing AI to expand your own skill set. You don't necessarily have to be trained for 5 or 7 years anymore in a specific discipline.
And that's not a threat. That's an unlock in your eyes.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, and again, to use 3D animation as an example, let's say you are a professional animator. I always use the Pixar film Coco as an example. If anyone's seen it, there's a very famous scene where hundreds of characters are walking across the bridge for the Day of the Dead. And that scene took several months to put together, because every single animator working on that scene had to manually animate a character from scratch. So they had to move the knee joint, the toe joint, the foot joint. Our AI model generates body motion. So now animators can take an animation directly from our tool, pull it into their traditional workflow, and focus on just facial animation, which is really why people become animators, right? You don't become an animator because you're interested in moving someone's knee joint. You become an animator because you care about emotion and empathy and bringing expressiveness to a character. But the reality today is animation is a manually driven workflow. So for most people who go into animation, they spend the bulk of their time on these manual repetitive motions. But with our tool, that can kind of be eliminated. So you can really focus on empathy and emotion in the character. So whether you're an amateur who's just getting started or someone who's a professional with many years of experience, AI can accelerate your workflow either way.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I see it as an operator. I've come from years and years of experience, and when I started in commercials and advertising, and we had to go to an operator that had a machine, that had a software and a hardware, and the creators were telling him or her this is what I want. So that operator was operating. It was not creating. It was just a tool for the creators to kind of, transform their ideas into. So I think that's what's being not eliminated, but that's where it's helping. I don't think for creators we need to be worried about AI taking over our jobs or anything. I think to design, to create something, you have to have had lost, and you have to be let down, and you had cried, and you had emotions that goes and makes you who you are. And a creator kind of expresses these through their design, and these are decisions. You are still making decisions. You're just like finding another way for an operator to give you the output on that. And I think the reality here is that no matter how good it gets, it still needs to be someone that prompts an idea. And what I see these days with the prompts and the text, and I text this and this kind of happens, it kind of reminds me of what we had with the computational power at the beginning of computers. We were with MS-DOS, it was like texting, and we were getting text back. And guess what? Windows and Mac OS gave us an operating visual system to interface with that. I think we're still not there, but we are on the MS-DOS of AI. We are typing something and we're getting. And I'm looking forward to the software developers such as Canva and many others to create these tools for creators that are going to allow us to also have the fine-tuning that we need when we're creating for all of these big brands and big movies, because we cannot go and create something that's going to give you a beautiful image, but if you then want to change that little thing there, you then have to type, and guess what? It's going to create a new image, not that. So we need to fine-tune how the interface between human and machine applies to a creative process, and I think the tooling that we're going to see, the operating systems that we're going to see created in the next years is what gets us more excited and what we are eventually continue to use in our workspace.
I think very similarly, using large language models, there is that still kind of limitation, even having built kind of the best possible workflow that you could with the latest models, and we're already kind of thinking about what are we going to be building with GPT-5, but kind of today, what we can do and bringing in all of that feedback from users is to tell you that your users are asking for a faster horse, but we can tell you that in seconds and you don't have to do anything. You still have to do that kind of innovation to figure out that actually users would need a car, right? But I think what we're just starting to see, which is really exciting, is that as the models are becoming better at reasoning and also omnimodal, is that they are they able to react to audio and visual and all of that in a way that actually inspires us humans to create, right? Because kind of the way we think about things, we talk, we discuss, we have fluid conversations, kind of like why we're all here, right? To talk, to listen, to be inspired. And then just seeing models start behaving in similar ways from just like the OpenAI presentation last week, right? The magic was not so much in the intelligence getting better, though it got slightly better, but the fact that it could like listen, it wouldn't interrupt the user, it could laugh in response to what they were saying. Those kind of like fluid cues are, once we start being able to build that into the products, those AI tools will really unlock the humans to be more creative, because that's how we create, that's how we think, that's kind of how we get inspired. So I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're really getting this near future, which I think is so exciting right now. Everyone's kind of touched on this, but really, like, what is the UX or UI of AI, right? Like, how do we interact with it? Thus far, it's been the prompts, right? Which theoretically gives me as a writer an advantage, but like it's not quite good enough for the prompt to work as well as I want. But to your other points, sort of nudges of human behavior in all sorts of other expressive ways, tone of voice, right? Semantics, even just the idea, like, I've seen editing systems that you can essentially use a paintbrush right now, but it has AI generation in real time happening right on the canvas. And, do you feel like these tools are sort of going to be there in sort of a year or two right now? I mean, do you think we're going to see a true shift in how we're using it? And obviously, like, you're right now building animation tools based upon AI.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this was brought up earlier, but to expound on it a little bit more, I think creator-driven tooling is super important. And early on, when we built our foundation model, we were so excited that it could make animations, but then we stopped at the end of that process, and we were like, wait, but what do you do with just this blank animation? There's no background, there's no lip sync dialogue, you can't customize your avatars, you can't export this as a video. How do people really use this animation? And I think that really gets at this idea of AI as just a model without any UX or user-friendly experience around it is really not useful to the majority of people, right? If you're a scientist, sure, that's great. But if we really want average consumers to start using this, which we do, everyone has to work together to build really user-friendly experiences. And I think the way we think about it is, I think, quite similar to Canva, where when somebody comes in, AI is just a part of the product. It's not the be-all, end-all of the product. So you're supposed to use AI as part of your product journey, whether that's creating an animation and then adding it to a character, getting the character to speak in more than 25 languages, generating a background to go with the story that you're building. But AI isn't necessarily the point of the experience. It just enhances what you're trying to create. And I think if every product aspires to that, then it can go mainstream. But if it stays kind of more just as a research tool, I think it'll be harder for everyone to use it.
Right, it's like the engine of the car, essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what's to add, right? I think this is right. I always see it a bit more from a more technical, and we see, again, algorithmic solutions to what we're seeing a lot of new content created and nonlinear content for new headsets and new augmented reality and mixed reality solutions. So the stuff that we used to do for films that requires computational power to render the final image now is kind of moving more towards a real-time experience that you put a headset on and you might be there in the movie. And what I see AI helping a lot is on the utilization we're doing now is mainly with bringing what used to be photogrammetry, so like going to a place and taking lots of pictures so we can recreate that in 3D for the film and visual effects, like that part of the set. Or we're starting to see solutions that they're called neural radiance fields, and they are light fields that allow us to take some pictures, and when we pass these pictures of the set to an AI algorithm, is able to calculate where the light is bouncing at any point of that set or that capture in 3D, and is able to triangulate and interpolate the bouncing of that light to that material and recreate everything that the camera wasn't seeing at that point. So what was behind there that we didn't capture. That's thanks to AI, and what we're experiencing is that while this gives us a very quick, lightweight way to reproduce these 3D environments for headsets in real time, is also helping us meshing these 3D environments that do not have any geometry. They are only points of light bouncing and recreating the space, meshing that so we can apply visual effects on top of it. So if we add a new light or a flame, there's going to be the reflection into that piece of water or something. And this is something that is only thanks to AI and being able to run this through a model that calculates all these billions of points of data and light and gives us a solution where we can then create with. So what the future for us is just to get to see these to the point that right now we could just have a probe here or a camera, and anyone that is watching this online from just a window could actually be here and be just because all of the points of data and how the light is changing is recreated in real time. So they could actually be walking around. That's kind of where I see this going. Exponentially is going to get better. Exponentially we're going to find ways to utilize it in a better way or more efficiently. And I think the solutions for real-time experiences are going to be one of the places where we're going to see the jump being pretty dramatic.
I mean, Marty, I was just on that point. I've heard so many people who work within film and other things, and I say special effects in general, be very, very worried about AI, right? And I know there's a ton of concern with across Hollywood. It's part of what your business does. It's not 100% of what your business does. You seem much more bullish. Does it make you nervous?
No. I mean, I just looked back at like any single time where humanity faced like a massive evolution. It happened with the press, it happened with Industrial Revolution, it happened with the internet, and all of these people, they were saying that, oh, this is gonna, I don't know. I mean, it seems like this is a very important one for us, and I always think like embracing it and already seeing how much just by just seeing a little bit and understanding a little bit of it, how much is impacting all of the industries. I think this is going to be a big shift for not only our industry, but any other industry will find a way to apply it and use it and supercharge what they're doing there every day. And of course, I wouldn't understand why someone that's creating visual effects and all that stuff will be against it. It really, really helps us create solutions that used to be simulated and rendered for hours in minutes. So we can then use the time to really just be more creative and try more things and get to a better output for our films, games, or any application that we're doing. And I think the real time, again, is where we see it going. Super bullish, definitely.
I think, just to switch gears a little bit, I am curious, and Jana, I think you could speak to this pretty well. Talking about AI and sort of the capabilities, I've certainly written things that are exaggerated, and I've certainly written things that are sort of under-exaggerated, or perhaps, I've sold it short. I guess I am curious, like, what misconceptions are out there right now when you talk to people who sort of aren't working as closely to these technologies as you are?
I think it goes both ways, as you mentioned. It's both exaggerated, where people assume that it'll be able to do everything, and so, like in our case, we see people, feed in their data and then expect to get the AI basically telling you, here is what you should build, which is kind of like beyond and predicting how users are going to react to that. I don't think we're there yet in terms of the technology. And on the other end of the spectrum, it's the other way around, where people have tried AI in the very early days, like tried ChatGPT for something last year. It didn't work for them, and then they're sort of like, they feel like, okay, well, I can't use any tools now because it's going to be really bad at summarization, or it's going to be really bad at getting insights out of it. I think for us, it's been really critical to design our process around showing users what the AI is doing for them, and then giving them full control over that process. And I think that kind of like keeping users in the know and keeping them in control is like key design principles to make like building that trust. AI also just showing the capabilities, what's possible, how far we've come in a year, and also letting them check in, guiding the model to behave a little bit more like that particular operator wants it to behave, because everyone's different. Every product builder is different. They're actually looking for different things. So you kind of need the model to adjust to those individuals, as opposed to kind of just generally improving over time, which of course we do that too.
Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think that AI will completely kind of supersede human engagement and human prompting. And I think this has also been brought up already, but I think that AI needs humans to guide it. And whether that's submitting a prompt or editing a certain output, AI doesn't understand human emotion. It doesn't understand empathy. And so when you're producing experiences, whether they're text-based images or 3D animation, your voice as the creator is just as important now as it was before this AI revolution. The only difference now is we have more tooling available to us to iterate faster and to get more creative outputs more quickly. So that's what I always tell people is like, animators are never going to be replaced. This is just a tool to help you be creative faster. And I would say that's true of any LLM, is that you can just come up with more ideas more quickly now.
We have just a couple of minutes left. I want to hit on two more topics if we can. First, I do want to hear your bets. 4 years out, 5 years out, which is an eternity right now. If you talk to anyone within AI, like they're all panicked because like 2 weeks from now, there will be like a dozen new research papers that drop, right? But how do things look in a few years?
I'm happy to. So I think we're going to see AI essentially being able to do more and more of our workflows. First, just piecemeal, then doing complete workflows, but with human supervision, and then ultimately full automation, right, with AI. I think that's kind of, and I would say that it's hard to predict how we're going to get to that end destination. It's almost easier to predict the destination itself, because if you were to ask, most AI researchers today would be super surprised by the fact that we kind of got to some breakthrough in knowledge work prior to being able to do a lot of the kind of the general robotics that we assumed would be easier tasks for machines to handle. And so I think that sort of it's going to really depend on those kind of breakthroughs. So some sort of like to your point about like 2 weeks from now is going to be a very different thing than it is today. And so 1 year from now may be different. But I think in 5 years, 5 to 10 years, there's definitely going to be, just again, right? Like when is the destination? We don't know, but around that time, I think definitely we will have autonomous systems that can design products end to end. And I think that the interesting thing at that point will be that creators will be creating optionally, essentially because they are passionate about creating, not to make a living. And those creators will be enabled by AI. And when they are, they're not going to think of it as that. They're going to think of that as sort of like using pen and paper, right? But I think that's going to happen. And I think there's a lot of things we need to do right to get to that end goal. But I think it's a really exciting future.
I mean, I think I see small studios and small teams being able to be extra competitive and compete against bigger companies. I think this is already going to start happening right away. And we're going to see the opportunity to kind of, again, leverage this expertise that usually were only available to companies that had the money and the time to kind of spend on like technical teams and all that. That just now open to, we're gonna see getting better, that technical aspect, and it's gonna allow smaller teams to get better, more competitive. I think another thing that maybe with time we might see is that the thing that we are so used to now is that when something works, we see it repeated. We see it in music. If like these different tones and harmonies work, and you see that all of the songs are using it. You see it in trends in film and TV. If this type of like, TV show works, everyone is good, the same. So I think because AI is going to accelerate recreating, because that's what we're doing right now. We're recreating things that we see that work. Then we get to see less and less original content. So I expect that AI is going to exponentially speed up the recreation so much that we will turn our eyes to like more original content, because we will see that the recreated formula that we see that worked is not anymore it doesn't take much now to get it done, because we will have AI recreating it, and you will say, give me a Drive to Survive for kayaking, not Formula One, and these 20 other and it's going to be able to do it, and people will get tired more sooner than what we are now. We're getting a bit numb to some of this, because it will be exponentially faster. So on a positive note, we'll have to then create again, not recreate. And I think it's good for everyone.
Yeah, we're burning up all of our tropes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, this is more of like a wish, I guess, maybe, and a bet. I hope that in 5 to 10 years, AI is in every classroom, assisting students, allowing them to learn new skills quickly. One of the most exciting things for us is seeing teachers and students use our product. And I wish I was a student again now, in K through 12, to have access to all of these tools and be able to really expand your horizons and learn so many new skills so quickly. I think it's really unprecedented. It's kind of like the internet all over again, right? Where it just expanded what people could do. So in 10 years, I hope that AI is integrated with every classroom.
We have just a few seconds left, but I do want to toss one more question to our group. Perhaps one or two of you can answer, because we are out of time. You have one piece of advice. I think a lot of people in the audience are wondering how they should parse the AI tools today to know what can work for them. I'm curious if you have any advice on how you're doing it and what they might take from that.
Yeah, we try to go for the tools that are the most user-friendly. So what's going to allow you to get the most number of creative iterations with the lowest amount of effort. And I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier about having a good user experience is actually almost more important than the quality of the AI to some degree, because I think even the open source LLMs are so good now. So I would say try to find a tool that makes it really easy for you to create and iterate without needing any technical skill.
Yeah, I similarly would say kind of like try as many as possible. That's what we always try to do, is sort of like line up, here are all the possible solutions. Let's see how many we can get through. And of course, like the ones with the easy user experience, we actually can try. The ones with the really hard, or like if there's like a long time to create things in it, we end up not trying. And so, and it ends up that the user experience ones usually win, right?
I like this. I like this advice. Try them all. Try all of the AIs. That's the solution. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Kediki, Marty, and Jana, for sharing all of your knowledge. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.